What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about Saturday Night. Saturday. Anyway, this is timed with SNL's 50th anniversary, and this was originally called SNL 75 or 1975, and it's Saturday Night is kind of a little bit more generic. I kind of like the original title. Directed by Jason Reitman. The cast is, I'm not listing them. Jesus. Uh, everyone. There's a ton of people that are in this because either they're famous and they stop in and play a character for like a hot second, like Brad Garrett. Just, what's up, Brad? Why are you here? He's not even playing anybody that's like really like, but anyway. But they're all the people that are trying to play the not ready for primetime players. Gabriel Labelle is being pegged as the lead here, which is fair because he's playing Lorne Michaels. It was really hard for me to accept him as Lorne Michaels, though, because in the same year, he was also in Snack Shack. So, like, trajectory for him as an actor is like, I'm supposed to think of him as like a high school student in The Fablemans to a high school student running a snack shack to a TV producer. Um, he aged up fast in Hollywood. Um, so he's technically 22, but we know all actors in Hollywood always play younger. So he's still very much in that age group where he's playing high schoolers. So it was really hard for me to take him seriously as a producer. And, yeah, there's a statement about, how this whole thing was built to fail. That's why they hired a whole bunch of 20 somethings. Technically, yes, he's a 20 something. But as I pointed out, they always cast older for younger. So really there should be a lot of people who are like a little bit in their 30s playing 20-year-olds. That's just how Hollywood casts. It's about how much you look like and what they need you to look like, which is why a lot of the high school students on shows always look a little bit older than your kids who are actual high school students. Anyway, um, but sometimes people are in their 30s playing high school students, if they can keep that young of a look. So I like Gabriel Labelle, but as far as performances this year, I would not have nominated him for this. He got a Golden Globe nomination. It just didn't do anything for me. If anything, I would have much preferred them to give like a random nomination to him for Snack Shack because he's better in Snack Shack and has more to do. Although so does Connor Sherry, his co-star. They're both really great in that movie, and it's one of the sort of underrated gems of the year. It's a better film than this, by the way, also. So if you want to get your Gabriel Labelle on, please watch Snack Shack. This just explores the original first broadcast of Saturday Night Live, the first show, the chaos behind all of it, and how they got to air, which started, obviously, the legacy of 50 years. So, what did I like? Aside from Labelle, I actually would consider this for ensemble. Some people have joked about it because they're like, oh, it's all the cast. And it's like, it's a lot of people and they're all doing a lot. And they all have to like bump into, they're all, I mean, they only have fleeting moments. It's really hard to recognize any individual person because some of these people only have a few scenes to shine. And I wasn't alive in 1975, and I don't even remember all of the people. I didn't even know all these people were in the original Not for Primetime Players. Like, I don't think I've ever watched season one of. I've seen skits and stuff. Like, I'm very familiar. They're talking about the Julia Childs sketch with the bleeding, and I feel like I've seen that before. But some of these people, there's like a black SNL actor, Garrett, who it's funny because he's like standing around and he's talking with the band, and they're like, "So you're a comedian?" He's like, "No, not really. I'm sort of a playwright, and I wrote a play, and Lauren discovered me, and I'm here." And he's like, "I don't really know why I'm here," and I guess that's kind of like the joke to the audience is like, well, obviously he's the token black cast member. Like they needed a black cast member, and I guess Lorne just didn't know how to hire one at the time, so he found this guy. Um, of course, he would go on to find, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock. I mean, like some actual comedians who their legacy continues on today. But this guy seems out of place, and I actually sort of enjoyed the few moments that he has because he feels so out of place. And every time he sort of talks, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And but I think sadly the message that Jason's trying to throw here is we reflectively know why he was there, um, and uh, and maybe why they didn't know quite what to do with him, and why he didn't quite know what to do with himself, and why he's not sort of the same household name maybe as like Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Chevy Chase, some of the other people that are featured here, Gilda Radner. So all of these people have to be played by somebody, and all of them have to live up to the expectation of playing that original person. So there's a lot going on here, and it's almost too much at times. Like the screenplay becomes a little entangled in itself. Um, so I think there's probably a better way to tell this story. I'm not super excited about Jason Reitman's direction. I didn't really love the movie. I think the screenplay probably needed room to breathe. At times, it's very frenetic, and it starts off frenetic. But the funny thing is, like, the moments that I enjoyed the most were the moments where it paused for a minute and actually thought about something. Like when it actually stopped to have a thought. Like one of my favorite moments is when Lorne is basically he's getting yelled at by the referencing the thing that I was talking about earlier about how that NBC they're only putting you here to leverage you as against Johnny Carson, because Johnny Carson reruns Duel in the Time Slot, and I guess it's probably just like a contract negotiation thing. He was supposed to fail. This wasn't supposed to work. It wasn't supposed to run for 50 years and become the kind of cultural icon that it was. So he beat the odds, and he had to figure out how to do that. But he had to understand the fact that he was being set up to drown, and that scene kind of time stops, and we sit there and we have that conversation, and that scene was really strong. The scene where Garrett is talking about to the band why he's there, that scene is really strong. So the few scenes where we actually stop to have a thought about something are the stronger moments. The frenetic pace scenes, they work, and it's sort of like Aaron Sorkin uses the walk and talk a lot, but he doesn't. His whole show is not walk and talk, and this felt like it was 90% walk and talk. You know what I'm saying? It felt like it was like nobody could ever stop to have a moment. And the few moments that it did, I was so grateful that the show was allowing these characters to breathe, because generally it was when the best revelations came forward out of the script, when the heaviest things were thought about, when we had the best character moments, the best acting, all of those moments. And the frenetic moments when we're just like, let's see how many people we can refer in the next 20 seconds, or it feels like how many people can cameo in here. Let's cram all these characters in into one long sequence. Feels like Jason is trying to meet some sort of like directorial achievement in I don't know, craziness or something. I don't know. Just putting it all in there. Just jam as much in there as humanly possible. Like he himself is also pressed for time as much as Lorne Michaels was back in the day. So I'm a little divided on this. I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it. There's stuff here that I like. I think the cast shows up everywhere. Even Labelle, I just think he's miscast. I don't think he's bad. I just don't understand the praise. I don't understand sometimes when you take somebody and they're not quite right for the role, I'm not 100% sure that it's right for this. I like Rachel Sennett plays his wife. I think they're married at least. Um, she did a good job, but again, I think about Rachel Sennett and I'm like, well, I love Shiva Baby, so she was better in that, so I would immediately recommend that. Just like with with Gabriel Labelle, I'm like, well, if you're a Gabriel Labelle go watch The Fablemans or Snack Shack. They just have more to do. This film doesn't ever give anybody anything to do of length, but yet it's really hard to fault anybody for an extended length of time because everybody's really good for the 5 seconds they're in the show. It crams a lot of people in there. Very frenetic. The one thing that I will say that I came out of Saturday night, and the one reason why it was good that I watched this, I did watch it with audio description. It was presented to me without audio description, but I went ahead and got it off of iTunes, so now I own this film for all of eternity. God damn it. Anyway, I love the score. I thought the score was incredible. It's reminiscent of Birdman, but it paces itself. So it supports the frenetic energy when there is it, and it backs off of it when there's not. Much like Birdman. If it was the same person who wrote Birdman, it would not surprise me. Like, but yeah, it felt very much like Birdman, sort of very percussion heavy score. So I actually did enjoy the score. It's one of my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite. It's a top score for me this year. It stood out as being very complimentary to the piece and also memorable enough that if I heard it again, if it was played, I'd be like, that's the score to Saturday Night, or maybe Birdman, but Saturday Night. It doesn't, like, there aren't that many films. It's not just like generically pleasant music to listen to. It felt creative enough in and of itself that I might recognize it again. And it'd be like, oh yeah, Saturday Night. Yeah, okay. So that Best Ensemble, which doesn't exist at the Oscars, those are sort of like the two things that I really strongly think it deserves the most. Editing would be another. I bet this was kind of a bitch to edit. I'm just gonna guess. I'm just gonna guess that Saturday Night was kind of a bitch to edit. It does move at a frenetic pace. It's not that long of a movie, and I'm guessing editing was such a huge factor here. Although, I favorite editing of the year, not necessarily. Is it top 5? I don't know, because at the same time, I'm kind of like, I think the film is over edited, if that's even possible, because my favorite scenes were when they stopped and let the scene breathe. When we actually got a moment to breathe. So yeah, I don't know, but I appreciate the fact that some of this must have been a bitch to edit. So yeah, I'm a little mixed on Saturday Night, but at least I watched it with audio description, which, by the way, it just tells you who the people are. It doesn't have the time of day. It's a little like I saw September 5th and they were like, Peter Jennings. It's Peter Jennings. It also doesn't really have the time to develop its characters, just because of that has a frenetic pace. It's 95 minutes and doesn't have the time. This also doesn't have the time really to describe. It has very few scenes where we stop and let anything breathe. So there isn't a lot of audio description here. They have a couple times to try to point out things to you, and like who's who and Gilda. The stuff at the beginning when we're getting to see sort of like their audition tapes, it just says who they are. And I wouldn't fault them for any lack of description, because there isn't a lot of room. I didn't feel like, In a Violent Nature had all of the room in the world to put more audio description in there. This does not. They have very limited room to do anything more than what they're doing. So, because this film just won't stop. It just won't shut up. It just will not stop. So I'm going to give Saturday Night a B-. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.